Constitution Day in America. Coverage of the event and a constitutional quiz are just minutes away on CNN Student News. You're going to love it. I'm Carl Azus. First up today, police chanting, "Please go back," demonstrators chanting, "Open the door." It was a chaotic scene yesterday at the border of Serbia and Hungary, with migrants and refugees trying to get into Hungary. It's become the prime gateway into Western Europe and the continent's most severe refugee crisis since World War II. Hungary is one of several European countries trying to control their borders. There are hundreds of thousands of people fleeing terrorism, warfare, and poverty in the Middle East and North Africa. But European leaders are struggling with the challenges of where the refugees and migrants should go, how to pay for the influx of people, and concerns about terrorists crossing borders with them. CNN's Ben Wiedemann was at a Hungarian border yesterday when trouble broke out.
We were up on the gate that separates Serbia and Hungary, and of course there's been a tense standoff for several hours there as people were pushing at the gate to try to get it to come down so they could go into Hungary. Now, after a little while, and it's still going on now, people are throwing bottles and apples and other objects in the direction of the Hungarian Special Terrorism Police, riot police, and afterwards they fired back with tear gas, and then you can see a water cannon is now being fired as well. And of course, among the crowd, there are many children, many women who are very close to that area. So there are a lot of people who were overcome with this tear gas, which is quite strong. And of course, we've heard them all day chanting at that gate, "Open the door, open the door." And as far as the Hungarian authorities go, that's simply not going to happen.
Up next today, a report card for American fast food restaurants. They were graded on whether their meat suppliers use antibiotics on animals. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration approves the use of antibiotics in the food supply. Supporters say it keeps our food supply safer, decreasing the chances that people will be exposed to bacteria from meat. Critics say the practice makes bacteria more resistant to antibiotics, meaning infections could become harder to treat when we catch them. With more Americans dining out than ever, a group of health, environmental, and consumer interest organizations give an A to Chipotle and Panera Bread companies. The report says they're the only two fast casual restaurants that say most of their meat is raised without the regular use of antibiotics. Chick-fil-A got a B. It says it's in the process of going antibiotic-free. McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts got C's, and restaurants that failed included Starbucks, Papa John's, Domino's, Taco Bell, Wendy's, Subway. An article with the complete list is featured in our extra credit resources at cnnstudentnews.com.
Time for the shout out. Two people who signed the U.S. Constitution later became presidents. Who were they? If you think you know it, shout it out. Was it A, John Adams and James Madison, B, George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, C, George Washington and James Madison, or D, Thomas Jefferson and Andrew Jackson? You've got 3 seconds. Go. The two signers of the Constitution who'd become presidents were George Washington and James Madison. That's your answer, and that's your shout out.
It was on this date, back in 1787, that 39 people plus a secretary signed the U.S. Constitution. What Constitution Day does is commemorate the event and the document that defined fundamental law in America. Okay, you knew that. But see what else you know about the document in our official CNN Student News Constitution Day quiz. It's Constitution Day. On this date in 1787, 39 delegates to the Constitutional Convention signed the document that today is the oldest written constitution still in use by any government. We're finding out how much you know about the U.S. Constitution, starting with some fun true or false questions. All right, number one. The word democracy appears in Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution. Answer: false. The word democracy doesn't actually appear anywhere in the document. Next, Benjamin Franklin was the oldest person to sign the Constitution. This is true. He was 81 and in declining health, so he needed someone to help him sign it. And it's said that as he did, tears were streaming down his face. 3. Some delegates to the convention refused to sign the Constitution. Answer: true. Of the 6 delegates who did not sign, 3 of them, Edmund Randolph and George Mason of Virginia and Elbridge Gerry of Massachusetts, refused to do so, partly because the Constitution didn't have a Bill of Rights. Those amendments guaranteeing individual liberties were proposed 2 years later. Since the ratification of the Bill of Rights in 1791, how many additional amendments have been added to the Constitution? Is the answer 7, 10, 12, or 17? If you said D, 17, you got it. That last amendment, the 27th, says that a pay raise for members of Congress cannot take effect until after an election. Now, which branch of the U.S. government is mentioned first in the Constitution? Is it the legislative, judicial, or executive? Answer A. The legislative branch's powers are laid out in Article 1 of the Constitution. This is the branch that includes the House of Representatives and the Senate, and it's charged with making the laws that govern the country. Finally, where can you find the original copy of the Constitution? Is it in Fort Knox, Kentucky, the Library of Congress, the Smithsonian Institution, or the National Archives? Answer D. The National Archives building in Washington, D.C. To preserve the quality of the document, it is kept at 67 degrees Fahrenheit and 40% humidity. And you can say that fascinating fact constitutes our Constitution Day quiz. From yesterday's transcript page at CNNStudentNews.com, a fitting mascot leads off our Constitution Day roll call. The Senators. We elected to feature Dover High School today. It's in Dover, Delaware. Out west now to Idaho, Moscow, Idaho. It's the home of the Cubs, who are watching at Moscow Middle School. And from the capital of Saudi Arabia, we heard from the American International School of Riyadh. Good to have you watching this Thursday. Thanks to a nonprofit organization called Our House, more than 350 young men from the Washington, D.C. area are getting a second chance. The program began more than 20 years ago, teaching them, literally, tools of the trade. The man who started it is today's character study.
When I was a special ed teacher, I taught carpentry to high-risk kids. During the daytime, they would catch on, you'd see that spark. Then they'd go home at nighttime, they would get erased. The tears you would see, the anguish they would go through. I saw a real need. And that's when the idea hit me. Don't let them go home.
The morning meal is now being served.
We provide
Gentlemen, good morning.
residential setting for young men.
Ready for a rip-roaring day of work?
During the day, they learn trades.
What I'd like to do.
And at nighttime, they get their high school education. We take on a lot of tough cases from foster care to the court system.
Go ahead, you
I'm
want to try
impressed. I'm impressed, yeah.
The emotional support that we give is critical.
Worked hard on it.
Whoa, good job.
The grounds are wide open, fields, trees, chickens, animals. It is not a lockup. Tyler, what is this you're making? This facility becomes a home to many of them. When they leave, we try to help them find a job and a place to live. Anything they need, we make sure that they have.
The program changed my life in every way. I'm currently enrolled in college. I feel like I'm going from the bottom to the top. Benny gave me the tools to build my future. I decided to come back and work with youth just like other people work with me.
I don't want to see any more kids fall through the cracks. And if I can give them an opportunity to turn their lives around, to step forward, that's my life's work.
Who'd be impressed to hear that one of NASA's latest rovers for exploring space is a hedgehog? Okay, it's actually a cube-named hedgehog, but check it. This thing can bounce. It's got 3 wheels, but they're flywheels, and they're on the inside. So if it flips over or lands at an odd angle, it wouldn't get stuck. NASA says hedgehogs are relatively inexpensive, but getting them to a Martian moon, for example, could end up costing $250 million, which could hedgehog a significant part of that budget, though some might call it a square deal. You can't really say the project's rolling forward. It's more of a hop, skip, and a jump away. Its movement, like its usefulness, kind of a hodgepodge. We're back tomorrow. Be there or be...